Matt Bomer is a TV and film star, well loved for his work on the series White Collar, the Magic Mike movies, and his award-winning turn as Felix Turner in Larry Kramer's The Normal Heart. Now he's made his long-delayed Broadway debut in the all-star company of the 50th anniversary revival of Mark Crowley's The Boys in the Band. Hear how Bomer found theater as a Texas kid, almost became a musical theater star, and what it's like to party every night with the boys and the boys in the band on this week's Show People. Mr. Matt Bomer,
hello.
I'm so happy you're here.
I'm so happy to be here.
I'm so happy you're on Broadway.
Me, Paul. I'm very happy to be on Broadway, so thank you.
I'm sure you thought you'd be on Broadway many years ago.
I honestly only ever thought I was going to do theater.
Right.
And my career just took me other places. But,
yeah, TV, Hollywood. Yeah, nice stuff.
You know,
nice
gigs.
Yeah, good gigs. The Boys in the Band is fantastic. It's really turned into, you know, I knew it as sort of a long play, and I was really interested to see sort of what Joe Mantello and obviously Mark Crowley was also around, the playwright.
Yeah.
It's sort of a brisker, one act.
Yeah.
Right, version. And the cast, when I heard the cast, I said, it's either going to be a disaster or it's going to be brilliant because these are so many great people all on one stage, and, and luckily it was brilliant.
I find that alluring, that combination of, those circumstances of, is this going to be a complete disaster or is it going to be something that is able to shine? I think that's always an exciting venture as an actor.
Yeah.
I think we had the safety net of the incredible creatives involved. I mean, Joe Mantello is the best director working today, and the cutting he was able to put together of the piece, I think, helps it enormously and really moves it along. And the fact that there is no intermission and you're just in there as the room's getting hotter, as the stakes are increasing, I think it only really lent itself in a favorable way to the production.
So you didn't have a lot of trepidation by the time you got ready for Broadway? I mean,
I mean, sure. I think it would be odd to not have trepidation. It's been a while since I'd been on stage, but I can't imagine a wider safety net than Joe Mantello and these actors that I'm sharing the stage with, all of whom are just phenomenal, some of whom I've known for 20 plus years. So
yeah, you went to school.
Yeah, I went to school with Zachary Quinto and Michael Benjamin Washington I've known since I got out of school. Andrew Reynolds I've known for years. And Jim I've known for years. So
is he from the same town as you in
He
Texas?
is, yeah. We actually grew up, I didn't grow up entirely in Spring, Texas is the name of the town, but kind of up the street. We went to different high schools, but he was just up the street from me.
That's crazy.
It is kind of crazy, yeah.
Like a small town in Texas.
And Lee Pace went to my high school.
Yeah, I know.
He's an Angels in America on Broadway
I know,
right now.
It's very odd. You have
I
a lot
some
of
really
these
funny pictures of us in high school productions together that I'll have to share at some point.
Yeah, you should. Let's just roll them right now. Just send those over.
Okay.
What productions did you and Lee Pace do together?
We did The Diary of Anne Frank.
Nice.
We did Wild Honey, the Michael Frayn adaptation of the Chekhov piece Platonov.
Oh.
And we did Crazy for You.
Crazy for You?
Yeah.
Really?
And we did South Pacific.
Wait a minute, that's like it just kept going. Yeah. So you and Lee Pace were both singing and dancing together in a Rodgers and Hammerstein musical, and singing Gershwin together.
Sure.
And
sure. All that.
You have a lot of musical. We're gonna get to that. First, we're gonna talk about Boys in the Band. But yeah, you have a lot of interesting musical talents that people haven't sort of untapped. But anyway, I want to talk about that set, David Zinn's set.
Oh my gosh!
I want to live in that set.
That gorgeous Halston Purgatory. Jewel box.
My favorite thing about it actually
narcissistic
is when the front door opens and that harsh light in the hallway.
Yeah, that's my favorite part of the set,
it's
and
brilliant.
I love getting to start the show there because here you have this. It really shows you what Jim's character Michael has done with the space. I mean, he has just glorified this space in the most indulgent, just sumptuous way possible. But outside in the hallway is a busted, broken down radiator and these tepid, nasty, neutral painted walls.
So New York.
Gross carpeting and it is so New York. And it's also a reminder of how different the outside world is than what this group of men have created for themselves within these walls.
Yep. So this is a birthday party.
Correct.
All men. I can't remember the last time I was at an all-men party like that. I feel like nowadays you can't have a gay party without there being one or two fun women in the mix.
Sure, absolutely.
It's all men.
Let's hope so. What a lot of people don't understand are the particular circumstances of pre-Stonewall 1968 when they come to see the show.
Yeah.
So sometimes I'll direct them. There's this really disturbing, I mean, it almost feels like reefer madness now, but there was this Mike Wallace special called The Homosexuals,
Wow.
which you can watch on YouTube for free should you ever have a spare hour and want to really be shocked. But it does set up very nicely the world that was going on outside of the walls of this apartment, which is that in analysis, people were saying you were tantamount to a pedophile if you were gay, or into bestiality, and your family wasn't going to accept you, society wasn't going to accept you, they couldn't congregate in public. That's why Emery, Robin DeHaze's character, makes that joke about it's Lily Law, everybody 3 feet apart. That was the rule, that was the law, and they did do raids, not only in bars, but also in private homes. And so the circumstances were such that it was kind of like getting to go to a gay bar, you know, it was the only way they could congregate. And because there are all these external influences, you know, ultimately directing that self-loathing inwards, the only place for these men to take it out was with each other in the privacy of their own homes. And who do you lash out the most other than the people you love the most in the world? Right.
It's interesting because it is a real ensemble show, and you all have your moments, and then there's a lot of sort of moments where you're listening and watching each other, have each other's moments. And do you like that energy?
I love it. I find the real challenge of the piece, it's a different type of acting exercise because there aren't clean scene breaks and then moving on to a new scene or a new act. You're just on stage the whole time. So much about it is the relationships you have with the other characters on stage and seeing what that slipstream of that show that night or that day is going to be, and finding that with the audience and your fellow actors on stage. So the real challenge for me is an hour and 50 minutes or 45 minutes of just kind of unbroken concentration and going along, getting on this train and going for the ride, and being able to step up when it's your time to do so and also back out and respond organically without having too many things pre-planned or prepared, you know, other than the relationships you have with the characters on stage.
Right. And you're making drinks.
Yeah, a lot of drinks.
Yeah, you are. Are you good at making drinks? I'm not very good at making drinks. I go a little too heavy on the
Well, I mean,
booze.
It's sort of an abbreviated version of making drinks, what I'm doing. I mean, it's really all about just swilling down that booze as fast as you can. But I've gotten better at it. When I make Alan's drink in particular, I have to use the tongs. With all our friends, I just use my hands to grab the ice. And the ice cubes can get highly slippery, and I have a very brief window of time, not only to make the drinks for the guys, but also for Alan. So that can be challenging. And I'm also slicing lemons, and the knife I use is quite sharp, and I actually cut off the tip of my finger in the middle of a performance, I would say maybe like 3 weeks into the run. And it was really kind of, it's one of those moments where you just get this incredible stream of cortisol going through your veins, and I just had to grab a bar towel and try to, you know, staunch this wound as best I could for the next, you know, 30 minutes of the show.
That's horrible.
But I love that. I love that about live theater. I mean, I don't want anybody to be hurt, but anytime something goes a little bit wrong and it brings this whole new energy into the air, and you have to be present with it. And there are so many opportunities for that in this play, just between all the drinks and the you know, as you can see, it just becomes this nasty morass by the end of the play of wrapping paper and forks everywhere and cake, and it's just like a gay party has exploded.
Yes.
And it's like you said, it's an ensemble, and the fun of it is getting to watch these guys every night and getting to interact with them and learn from them. And I do feel, because we're all on stage together, you know, you can do big shows that have incredibly lonely tracks where it's just two people scenes, and you may never interact with other characters in the play. And this is such a group effort, and we all have this implicit trust with each other on stage, because if somebody drops the ball, we're there for the other person, and that's just the way it has to be for the show to go.
I don't know how many like Golden Globe winning actors, because you won the Golden Globe for that incredible performance in The Normal Heart.
Oh, thank you.
Felix was.
Thanks.
So, and I mean, just if I think about it, I'll start crying if I think about you in that.
It's a heavy one.
But I don't know how many Golden Globe winning actors have done live showering You know, they used to have showers at that bar Splash. Like guys used to get up and shower.
Oh, did they really?
Yeah, there was like that was part of the
that.
gimmick. There were like showers.
And just any old Tom, Dick, or Harry could just jump up into the shower at the bar?
No, the guys that worked there.
Oh, okay. So it wasn't like a haven for exhibitionists.
No.
You had to be employed.
No, but Boys in the Band might be for you a haven for exhibitionism because that's that in the script.
It is in the script.
It's in the script.
Yeah, it is in the script, and it's a very brief shower.
Right.
And I'm not actually showering. To actually have done it, I think would have taken too much time, given the circumstances and the amount of text we have in that time, without some gaping pauses. But it's really just a pitcher of water I have back there that I'm just splashing on myself briefly.
Okay. Just getting wet.
Just getting wet.
You know, I don't want to make you uncomfortable, but there is some discussion about the best seats for Matt Bomer fans. That is a topic I've heard people discuss.
Oh dear! Wow.
Hey, do you have any recommendations for people?
I wouldn't know. Ignorance is bliss in a situation like that. I think the first time I actually had to be naked, in rehearsal, I completely went up on my lines. So I had to get comfortable in that in and of itself, and then the last thing I want to be thinking about is who can see,
who can see whatever.
My privates and who can't.
Right. Just rent Magic Mike. Everything's out there. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back with more Matt Bomer. We are back with more Matt Bomer, now on Broadway in Boys in the Band, finally. So, and it's interesting because I'm a big Ryan Murphy fan.
Oh, great.
And he's one of the producers of Boys in the Band.
Yeah.
And he has done such a great job of giving theater actors these amazing television opportunities, some of whom I'm sure you've been able to work with on multiple projects.
Absolutely.
You're actually the opposite. You were somebody who we kind of knew more from Ryan Murphy projects, and then you're coming to the stage. It's fascinating to see what he's done with these theater talents.
Yeah, and also bringing those talents back to the stage.
Yeah,
I mean, Jessica Lange and Long Day's Journey.
Yes, I know.
Now Boys in the Band, and who knows what he'll do next. He's so magnanimous and so generous of spirit, and so loyal to his troupe of actors. It really does feel like you're part of a rep company.
Yeah, that's how it feels. It's
which I love, because one of the hardest parts about this job is jumping from gig to medium, and having to reestablish or establish new relationships. And when it's the same core group, you get to interact with people in different circumstances and different characters, and it's the closest thing I've ever felt to being a part of a rep company. The first theater I ever worked for was the Alley in Houston, and which is a rep company, and I thought, why doesn't everybody do this? This is so great. It's like a family. They get to work on all the best plays together, and this is working with Ryan has really been the first professional experience I've had like that since then.
And by the way, you're a director now. I mean, and I loved the assassination of Gianni Versace.
Oh, I'm so glad.
And I loved your episode.
Thank you so
in particular.
much.
And you actually got to work with great theater actors like Jon Jon Briones and Annalee Ashford.
Yes.
People that, our viewers know.
People I've been huge fans of for years on stage, and who just came in and just crushed it.
Yeah.
Crushed it. Again, it was just one of those things where Ryan Murphy, I am one of those people who brings a lot of text work to the table and have never strayed too far from those theater roots, and he turned to me one day with my dog-eared, well-worn script and was like, "You should be a director." And then he called and offered me the opportunity on that show, and it was just a really profound gift, and I love doing it. I love working with actors. I've never met an actor I didn't like, even the prickly ones I love. And so it was a great opportunity to work with people like Darren, who I've known for years, Darren Criss and Edgar Ramirez, and all this great theater talent that, thank God you have someone like Ryan who's willing to look at someone like Jon Jon Briones and see the talent in him and give him a huge opportunity like that. He basically had to carry that episode. And Annalee and people like that. So it was wonderful. It was a great first directing gig.
Yeah, so there might be more of that?
Yes, I'm directing. I have a few directing offers for the fall. I'm not sure how it's all going to parse out, but I know I will be directing for Ryan in the fall.
I love it.
Yeah.
So let's go back to Texas. You grew up in this very small town, a religious upbringing. Clearly there were a lot of talented people in your town that maybe you didn't know at the time were going to also go on to But what was in the water down there?
A lot of it was just the knowledge of how to get to take what we were doing and then do it at a collegiate level and then break into the industry. And I had, you know, done athletics and things that I was encouraged to do by my family. And then when I got to 6th grade, you were able to take an elective.
Marla Crow came into
That's
your life.
right. Marla Crow came into my life, and she taught me acting through improvisation, which I just thought was the most fun thing. And it was a great way to learn it.
At your school?
Yes, Marla Crow was my 6th, 7th, and 8th theater arts teacher. And we had this great theater program in high school where our teacher, at the time, he was only there for my freshman year, but he was so tapped into everything that was going on and off Broadway. So I was doing scenes from Angels in America. We would do, like, you know, Hamlet and the Little Foxes for the school, but then in scene work in class, we'd be doing Destiny of Me or Lonely Planet or by Stephen Dietz you know, those were which were things I ended up using to get into conservatory with later on. So I was at a very young, before I could drive a car, I was doing scenes about the AIDS epidemic and really worldly, heady things. And so when it came time to get into conservatory, I had this rich source of material to use.
You obviously weren't in touch with yourself as a gay man as a teenager, but you were seeing these characters on the page, and maybe playing these characters.
Yeah, I'm sure that gave, you know, some voice to my bifurcated self at the time.
Yeah, I mean, do you remember like the first openly gay person you met in Texas, or
there was one incredibly brave soul named Jim. We were friendly because sometimes he would do things with my church youth group, and in fairness to my youth group, he would come on, you know, retreats with us and things like that. No one was ever judgmental or righteous, but he was very bold. You know, he would, you know, in Bible Belt, Texas, he was wearing rave clothes to school and dyeing his hair red and just really living in his authenticity at a very young age, which I just give him incredible props for.
So you're like, I want to be like Jim maybe one day.
You know, you can't completely encapsulate the gay experience into one type of persona. We're so diverse, but
you were also,
I wasn't going to hit the raves anytime soon.
And your hair has not gone any crazy colors.
No.
But you also were playing sports a little bit, right?
Yeah, it was a very kind of
you were super
Glee-esque.
Did you win like best personality or something? Weren't you named?
I did, yeah.
That's good.
I think it was kind of a consolation prize. My best friend, Marcus Lloyd, basically won everything, and they were like, you can't have every award. Matt came in 2nd place in this one. Will you give it to him? We're still friends, by the way. Hi, Marcus, if you're watching this. But no, it was, I lived a very kind of Glee-esque existence, and I was sort of like in a lot of social groups, but not of a lot of social groups. So I would kind of flit about from flower to flower.
You give all of them a little bit of yourself.
Yeah, but never. There were only a few people that I invested really deeply in, probably for obvious reasons.
Right. So at one point you wanted to be a marine biologist when you were a kid.
That's right.
What inspired that?
I think seeing Jaws way too early.
Jaws.
And then I became fascinated. I've always been fascinated by the ocean.
Right. And you also considered being a journalist, but then acting kind of won out because you got in, right?
Yeah, there was a great program, I think it's still around, called the NFAA, National Foundation for Advancement in the Arts program. And you would tape yourself doing a monologue, and they gave a very select group of people a scholarship. It wasn't a big scholarship, but it was just a vote of confidence, really, and that helped me out a lot with getting into conservatories and things like that. So I think I just wanted to throw it all out there. I gave it my all. I worked my butt off on my audition material, and I just thought, if this is meant to be, it'll happen, and if not, I'll find something else.
And what was your family into your like high school performances? Did they like enjoy watching you?
Yes, yeah, they came to the shows. I mean, they've never been that backstage family at all. There's not a lot of fanfare, not in a bad way. It's just, you know, they're very, you know, humble, God-fearing people, and so they have always tried to encourage that humility in me and to not make a big deal. I mean, in fact, up until a few years ago, whenever I'd call home, they'd say, well, you know, they're doing Christmas Carol at the Alley. When are you going to come down to Houston and work there? I'm like, okay, At some point, so they were much more concerned with me coming back and working at the regional theater in their neck of the woods than whether or not I was screen testing for a movie.
So that'll be when they know you made it, when you do A Christmas Carol at the Alley.
I guess so. Or a really rollicking production of The Nerd in the summer season.
You'd be good in that. We're going to take another break. We'll be right back with more Matt Bomer. We're back with Matt Bomer. You know, this might surprise you, but you're actually not the first Magic Mike star to be on this show.
Great. Yeah, that's fantastic. Who was here?
Big Dick Ritchie was here.
Oh, Joey.
Joe yeah.
Who I also went to college with.
I know you did.
Yeah. I should have just become an agent. I could have retired by now.
You could,
with all my friends who succeeded
But we need you to keep acting. Well, directing and doing whatever you want. But yeah, Joe was here, and we talked a little bit about Magic Mike and about, you know, they're making a musical of Magic Mike.
Yeah, Channing is such a brilliant businessman, but it was something I had said to him early on. I was like, you know, you have to make a Broadway musical.
Oh, so they were already that was your idea?
No, I'm not taking credit for that. I'm sure they were already well into it at that point.
Yeah.
But I think it's a great idea, and it's such an interesting and rich world to explore, and we do seem to be in this place in society now where we're not casting so many aspersions on that kind of lifestyle, where we're interested in opening up dialogues and seeing narratives about people who can be strippers or come from those more traditionally sordid-seeming lives, and so I think it's a good time.
That was a very highbrow way of saying why it would be a good musical, and there's also just that we all want to go watch guys strip in front of us.
There's that too.
There's that too.
Unabashedly.
So let's talk about you were almost a Broadway musical theater star. That's how it feels when I look at when I hear your story. So you moved to New York after Carnegie Mellon.
Before I graduated, I was fortunate enough to get Sundance Theater Lab.
Yeah, summer of 2000.
Summer of 2000, I did the very first workshop of Spring Awakening.
That's crazy.
Michael Mayer and Stephen Sater hired me for, and I mean it was a real first workshop. You know, Duncan Sheik was like, no, actually that's going to be in A minor. You know, it was raw and great, and that forum is the best entry point for anyone into this industry because you're with the greatest creative minds in the theater world in this safe haven up in the mountains in Utah. Yeah. And you're having lunch together, you're breaking bread together, you're working together all day in this really constructive way, but there's not too much pressure on it. So I love that. And from that
But did you have a role in it? Were you?
Yeah, I played Hanshin.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That's crazy.
So that was great.
But then was there ever a chance that you would stay involved with it, or?
I think by the time it came to Broadway, I was a little too long in the tooth.
It started.
You know, it's about, they're young children.
But you actually saw some of those songs being created.
Oh yeah, and there were amazing songs that didn't even end up in the show. Wow. One of my favorite songs with the most beautiful, poignant lyrics didn't even end up in the show.
Wow. So then you were on the musical theater?
So I did that, and then Michael Mayer had also hired me for Thoroughly Modern Millie.
Which we have to talk about this because I love Thoroughly Modern Millie.
Oh, it's amazing.
So
and just Janine Tesori, I'm just constantly in awe of. I think she's an absolute genius.
Yeah. And so, who were you going to be in Thoroughly Modern Millie?
I was the cover for Gavin Creel and Mark Kudish.
Wow.
Which is quite a...
Yeah.
You know, I don't know what
Trevor
would happen if I'd ever...
Yeah. Okay.
So I ended up not being able... What happened was 9/11 happened.
Right.
Sadly. And so
no
one was coming to New York. The show got delayed. Thankfully, I was able to get a money gig before the show started rehearsals, and I just had to do it.
A soap opera.
Yeah.
Is that the money gig?
Yeah.
Well,
for me it was.
I'm sure people always told you could be on soaps when you got to New York.
People mentioned it to me. It never held any luster for me because I thought I just went to conservatory. I've done Shakespeare and Ibsen and Shaw. But I'll tell you, it was really like getting paid to go to graduate school because I was terrified to be on camera, especially when you're in a medium like that where you're getting one take and you did one rehearsal that morning.
Right.
And by the end of the year, you know, I was just ready to let fly. I could, you know, whatever they needed on camera 1, 2, or 3, you're good to go just by virtue of having done it every day.
But you also were involved with an early Grey Gardens.
Yeah, I did a.
Were you Jimmy?
I was Jimmy and Joe Kennedy.
Oh yeah.
So I did that, and I was in rehearsals for that. I did the workshop at Playwrights Horizons, and I was in rehearsals for the Playwrights Horizons production, and I got a movie. And I chose commerce
It's
over
so crazy.
art.
It's like you would have been a whole different thing.
Yeah.
I would have met you a long time ago.
Yeah, you would have. You absolutely
I would have already known you.
Yeah. I mean, look, it's something I'd still love to do it on some level. I prefer doing plays.
Yeah.
And the musicals I've been attracted to, like Spring Awakening and like that play, are very actor-centric. I mean, the music is truly just an elevation of the scene work you're doing. And those are the kind of musicals I love. The ones that are just music all the way through, I think, would be trickier for me. I'd need about a year to prepare and about 6 months of previews before I was ready to do
So you don't see yourself doing a big Broadway musical?
No, I see that. It just had to be the right one. It would have to be more of an acting-centric piece that also had singing.
This is a challenge for everybody out there to figure out what the Matt Bomer musical should be.
And every now and again, the opportunity will come my way, and I think when it's the right one and it all works out, we'll do it.
Wow, it seems like it might really happen.
We'll see.
Oh, okay.
We'll see.
And anyone can look on YouTube and see you singing with Darren, Criss, and Kelly O'Hara.
Yeah, or buy the Magic Mike soundtrack that I had a couple of songs on.
Right. Yeah, I love that. So do you sing at all, like in life?
Oh, God, egregiously.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Like what?
Yeah, I mean, ask Jim Parsons. He'll kvetch about it to no end. I sing constantly. Anything that floats into my head. And I'm always associating words with songs. So if you say a phrase or a turn of phrase that reminds me of a song, then that song will get stuck in my head. But I sing constantly.
Did you have to do the Trevor Graydon speed test song when you were auditioning for Millie?
No, I did What Do I Need with Love and I Turned a Corner.
The Jimmy stub.
The Jimmy route.
Yeah.
The Jimmy track.
Did you ever meet them, like Sutton, Foster,
Of course,
and Gavin?
yeah. I had to audition with Sutton to get the job.
You auditioned with Sutton?
Oh, yeah. Sutton and I were originally cast as the understudies at La Jolla.
Oh, okay. So
Aaron Dilley was Millie.
Yeah.
And Jim Stanek was Jimmy.
Yes.
And I had just moved to New York, and I wasn't ready to hike out to La Jolla. I wanted to get a place to live and just get settled in New York, so I didn't do it there. And then, sure enough, at that time, Sutton ended up becoming Millie. And then all of a sudden, when I was auditioning for Broadway, I was doing it with her.
It's like you've been flirting with Broadway musicals for a long time. And you just always walk away.
I'm ready to commit. I'm ready to commit to a Broadway show. It doesn't have to be a musical. I love the medium. I love. There's nothing like having that shared space with an audience, and no two shows are the same, and no audience is the same, and getting to have that immediate feedback, especially when it's something that they're responding to. There's nothing comparable to that in any other medium that I've found.
And it is special to have a cast full of out actors. I mean, that is a very unique, sadly, a very unique kind of new thing.
Yeah, normally I'm the only openly gay guy
you're
on
not
a
the special
set,
one this time,
and which is such a welcome change. And I didn't know what it was going to be like. I mean, I knew I loved all these actors, but I was like, what's it going to be like? And it's just been the most. There's so much that you just don't have to explain or dance around.
Right.
It's just, and everybody's really come really beyond all that as a professional actor, really trying to seek out the nuances and beats of this piece. And so that's actually just fallen by the wayside. Now we're just this great group of actors who have some commonalities, but the main one is that we're just trying to tell a great story together every night.
The only thing I've noticed as an outsider watching you all is that whenever you do a press opportunity, you all look phenomenal.
Really?
Oh yeah, everyone just knows everyone knows how to dress.
Well, those guys are all so handsome, and they all are such natty dressers, and their sartorial game is high.
There's a lot of style.
I just try to keep pace.
You know who else looks incredible? Your family. You have a beautiful family.
Oh, thank you.
And I love when you share family photos.
Yeah.
Simon Hall's your husband.
Yeah.
And you have three boys.
3 boys.
3 adorable blonde boys.
Well, Henry's brownish.
Okay, brownish.
Yeah.
I still sometimes I still call myself blonde.
He's got kind of your hair color, actually.
Do they see Dad perform? Have they been able to see the play?
I'd done this DreamWorks animated movie with Melissa McCarthy and Seth Rogen that they ended up scrapping. I was like, oh, finally something they can see and enjoy. But now our 13-year-old, our oldest is 13, so he's able to see some of the films I've done.
Okay.
We've only brought them in for maybe the last 5 minutes of the play.
Okay.
And so they've gotten to see the curtain call and what it is to maybe get a laugh or two and then come and bow and they come backstage and They know all the cast, and they know all the candies in Michael Benjamin Washington's room, so they all
that's where
go
you go?
immediately to his room.
Oh, he has the candy.
And hit him up for the Twizzlers and,
That's good
and
to know
peppermint
for when I
patties.
go back. I'll know Michael
there you
has
go.
the
If you need
candy.
your sweet
Okay.
tooth, you know, taken care of, that's the place to go. But yeah, so they've gotten to see a little bit of my world, and they love it. They think it's so exciting, and they're so proud of it and excited about it to their friends, which is so fun for me to get to experience. You know,
that's great.
Yeah.
So the play runs what, through August?
August 11th.
August 11th.
Yeah.
Boys in
Now's the
Band.
time. If you're going to get those tickets, now is the time.
At the Booth Theater. It's a real fantastic experience, and it's obviously a landmark play that everyone should know. But this company is really special, and I don't know the next time we're going to see a great group of actors like this.
I love these guys so much. I really do, in my bones, and I'm going to miss them. So check it out if you can.
Awesome. Yeah, everyone check out Boys in the Band, and check out this guy when he does a musical.
Sounds good. See you there.
Thank you, Matt.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching. See you next time.